What is going on, Pooj Crew? Thank you for being here for part 3 of episode 116. If you've not done so already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts, opinions on the topic as well, and go follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform as well so you can listen to us on the go. Tell your friends, family about us if you're here in Duval and like Jaguars content. But anyways, let's get into this matchup. Jaguars versus Colts on Sunday at 1 p.m. And to be honest with you, if not for that Bills victory 9-6 in week 9, I'd be a lot less excited about this matchup. However, as the Jaguars typically do, they give us a little bit of hope right before a big game, and that's exactly what they've done again. The Colts 3-1 over their last 4, 4-2 over their last 6. They started the season 1-4, and now they sit at 4-5 with the chance to get back to 500 in a division where the Titans seem to have a stranglehold after beating the LA Rams without Derrick Henry. But the Colts can smell some blood in the water, and if they get this victory here, it's an opportunity for them to get back to 500 and inch closer to the Tennessee Titans. But they do have some big games coming up, including a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2 weeks and the Bills next week. So first and foremost, Colts have been at home for 3 straight weeks. They're very comfortable at home right now. They just came off a Thursday night victory against the Jets, which was a pretty handed victory against the Jets. No question about that. 45-30 over the New York Jets. The Jags, on the other hand, 0-3 on the road this season. Losses to the Texans, losses to the Bengals and the Seahawks. And they've lost 7 straight games to divisional opponents, with their last divisional victory coming week 1 of 2020 against the Indianapolis Colts. So we'll see if they can right the ship here. In fact, the last Jaguars road victory, true road victory, not London, came against the Oakland Raiders. That's right, the Oakland Raiders in 2019, the last game in the Oakland Coliseum, where the Jaguars won 20-16 in December of that season, closing out the Coliseum. Just a classic Jaguar move, sending the home team away in bad emotion, leaving Oakland, going to Las Vegas. Excuse me, I almost said LA. It seems like every team's going to LA. But there's some things to look at in this matchup, and this is a strengths versus strengths matchup. Both teams offensively, the run is what they're built off of. Jonathan Taylor with the Indianapolis Colts coming off 172 yards and 2 touchdowns versus the Jets. Nyheim Hines, 6 carries, for 74 yards and a touchdown, 12 yards per carry for him in week 9 against the Jets. And the Jaguars getting James Robinson back after missing the game against the Buffalo Bills, against 2 run defenses that rank very well in the NFL. The Jaguars run defense allowing less than 4 yards per carry and less than 105 yards per game, which is pretty impressive for a team that's sitting at 2-6 right now. And you look at the Colts run defense, 4 yards per carry, that ranks 6th in the NFL, 106 yards per carry, which ranks 14th in the NFL. So these 2 teams are matched up extremely evenly when it comes to the run game offensively and defensively. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Jaguars defensive line can build off that performance against the Bills, where we saw Josh Allen get after the passer, DeJuan Smoot force a fumble, Rudy Ford looked great in that matchup as well. So I'm excited to see how this team can respond coming off a victory. See, that's the thing with these teams in the NFL that aren't that great. They can't string wins together, especially in games where they're not favored at all. The Jaguars are 10-point underdogs here in this matchup after being 14.5-point underdogs against the Buffalo Bills. But here's something inspiring. The Colts have not really beaten many great teams this year. They beat the Dolphins, who, they just upset the Ravens. They beat the Texans. They beat a few other subpar teams. I think the 49ers are on that list. And then, of course, the Jets, like I mentioned on Thursday Night Football. So not many marquee victories for the Colts. They are 4-5 on the season, like I mentioned, but 3-1 in their last 4 against pretty subpar opponents. The Jaguars look to get to 3-6 in this matchup. And honestly, 3-6 at the halfway point after 9 games. As a Jags fan, I'm happy with that. I mean, there's been games where I thought we would win and play better against the Seahawks, for example. We let one get away against the Bengals. We let one get away against the Cardinals, who no one expected us to beat, obviously. But to move to 3-6 for the Jags, that would be huge. Let's take a look real quick. I just mentioned some Jonathan Taylor stats. This Colts offense, 30-plus points in their last 4 games. Pretty impressive. And in that stretch, Jonathan Taylor averaging 6 yards per carry and 6 touchdowns in those games. He has been a huge part of this Colts offense coming off of that Week 9 victory versus the Jets. So it will be a task for the Jaguars to slow down Jonathan Taylor. But someone else on the Colts offense to look at is Michael Pittman. 658 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. Those receiving yards rank 5th in the NFL, top 5 in the NFL, excuse me. So Michael Pittman, he's kind of come out of his shell. He was a number 2, number 3 kind of guy, but Carson Wentz has found his stride with Michael Pittman. He's his go-to receiver, and Carson Wentz, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this season, over 100 passer rating. He is performing well above expectations, and he has flashes of that 2017, 2018 Carson Wentz, that MVP candidate that we saw before that gruesome injury that took him out of Philadelphia, where we saw Nick Foles step in, go win a Super Bowl for the Eagles. Well, Carson Wentz is feeling comfortable. He has at least 2 touchdowns in the last 6 games. And offensively, on the offensive line, Quentin Nelson, obviously a cornerstone of that offensive line. They have allowed at least 1 sack per game, but only 17 sacks through 9 games. Carson Wentz, not the most mobile guy, but he is the kind of quarterback that can make plays happen when they seem to be broken. And we've seen that bite him in the ass. We've seen a few plays against the 49ers. We saw it against the Titans where he tried to make something out of nothing, and it turned out to bite him in the butt, and the opposing team benefit from it. So we'll see if the Jaguars pass rush can get after the quarterback like they did against Josh Allen. See if Joe Cullen can scheme up something similar to high safety, get some pressure on the quarterback, Josh Allen in the ground, rushing the passer. That's what I want to see. Now you look at Trevor Lawrence, 8 touchdowns on the season, 9 interceptions, 73 quarterback rating, performing well below expectations, I think, for a lot of us, but this was a 1-15 team. Come on, like, where could our expectations have been realistically? However, in his last 5 games, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, so he's protecting the ball. And I think that's the key thing here is to beat teams in the NFL, you have to win the turnover battle, and you just simply have to minimize turnovers yourself. Big part of the Jags beating the Bills was 3 turnovers to 1. Won the turnover battle, they won the game. So if Trevor Lawrence can protect the ball, we're looking at good things for this Jacksonville offense. We'll see if Dan Arnold can get involved. He's been a bright spot of the passing offense as well. We'll see if Marvin Jones, maybe Laviska Shenault can get some action as well. But Jamal Agnew, he's been kind of like the offensive weapon on the edges for the Jaguars. He's kind of done some things that not a lot of people were expecting at all. And it gets to the Colts defense. We went through the rush defense, but the pass defense, not that great, allowing 104 passer rating to opposing passers. That ranks 27th in the NFL. They've allowed 8 yards per attempt. That's tied for 25th in the NFL. Not that great of statistics. They just allowed 400 yards to the New York Jets, 4 touchdowns to Josh Johnson and Mike White combined. Yeah, it may have been garbage time, but those are still stats. Those are still things to be worried about if you are the Indianapolis Colts. Something to keep an eye on going into this matchup if Trevor Lawrence can take advantage of some of those holes in the secondary. Because when it comes to the defensive line for the Colts in the linebacking core, that is their strength. Their 7 in the box is where they beat teams. 20 turnovers on the season, 4 forced fumbles by Darius Leonard alone. He is looking like Charles Tillman out there punching balls out of opposing teams' arms. We'll see if the Jaguars can avoid Darius Leonard as much as possible. I don't expect too much activity over the middle, short routes, which gives me some concern because the Jaguars are last in the NFL when it comes to 3rd down and 5 yards or more conversions. They're, I think, 8 for 55, 14% conversion rate on that. That's worst in the NFL by far. So we'll see if the Jaguars can kind of move the ball on 1st and 2nd down to set up for some more manageable 3rd down opportunities. Getting James Robinson back is going to be huge, but he cannot carry the load, which is why Trevor Lawrence is going to have to step up in this game. Now, I usually like to look at previous games as an indication for future games, but that Jags-Bills matchup was so wonky and so weird. I'm not sure outside of the defensive line if we can really take anything away from that game with what the Jaguars can bring to this game, because the Bills offense just performed so poorly that I don't think we actually got a good read on how the Jags secondary looked. They played extremely well, but it all started up front with not giving Josh Allen time. And this Colts team scoring 30-plus points over the last 4 games in each game, that's a big number. 30-plus points is a big number. But the Jaguars, they had a pretty long streak of allowing 20 or more points per game. I expect that trend to continue. I think the Colts will be able to put up some points here. I don't think the Jaguars will lay an egg, and here's why. When you have a defensive performance like you did against the Bills, that can kind of bring a team together. And when you taste that type of success, And when you have that type of success on defense, that is kind of what can build that chemistry even stronger. Again, we've said it before. This is a team in total where a lot of these players have not played together many snaps in the NFL. And it's taken them, 8-9 weeks to really get to that point. And we've had some devastating losses against the Bengals, against the Cardinals, where we've just seen the defense fall apart. As soon as the offense makes adjustments, the defense crumbles. That did not happen against Josh Allen and the Bills. Week 8, Josh Allen and the Bills tied 3-3 at halftime with the Miami Dolphins. They came out with a new scheme, and they ended up running away with that game. I think they won 26-10 or 26-3 or something like that. However, the Jaguars adjusted at defense too. They continued to put pressure on the quarterback. They did not let Josh Allen get into a rhythm. I need to see that here in this game versus the Colts as well. If the Colts are running the ball and it's not working, they're going to adjust to the pass. We need to see Shaquille Griffin stopping Michael Pittman. We need to see him minimizing yards after catch. The short dink and dunk stuff is fine, but Nyheim Hines, one of the most lethal pass catchers out of the backfield. We need to have a linebacker on him. We need to have someone covering him as well. So this Colts team is a lot better than their record indicates. They're not a 4-5 talented team. They're closer to a 6-3 talented team, maybe just 5-4. They've lost some heartbreakers, including that Titans game a few weeks ago. I think it was week 8. So we'll see where this game goes for the Jaguars. Not many other notes in this game. It will be their third home game in a row, like I mentioned. So they've been home for a while since that Thursday night game against the Jets. So they're probably comfortable. But I think this Jags team is hungry to get out there and beat the divisional opponent, Indianapolis Colts. Now, do I think that will happen? No, I don't think the Jaguars win this game. I think we're looking at a 27-17, maybe a 27-21 type game. Colts winning this one by 6 to 10 points, but the Jaguars cover the 10.5 point spread. Put your money on it, but stay tuned for more games from week 10 that we will be previewing here on the Poojie Podcast YouTube channel. Subscribe, follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform, but whatever you do, go make this world a better